Welcome to Coach One For Me podcast. We are being joined today by Scott Bell. Scott's the superintendent at Redstick Golf Club. It is golf club,
yes.
Right? Okay, I got that right. Here in the Vero Beach area, not too far from us up at Melbourne Beach. Scott's given us the opportunity to talk to him today about what's happening at Redstick and his career and what's going on. So, Scott, welcome.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for having us here today.
You're welcome.
And we were just talking briefly in your office about, it's probably been at least a half dozen years since, we talked before, and was eager to get back to you. I guess let's start by, tell us a little bit about where you're at here, the club and it started and how long you've been here and what's going on with that.
All right. Well, the club was founded in 1999. That's when we started. Well, it's actually founded in 98, but we started in 99 with construction. It took about a year to build it, a little over a year. And we opened in 2000. We're a private club and about 300 members. So I was responsible for building the golf course, worked with Reese Jones, the designer, and with his construction company that did all the final shaping and grading. We got the place open, and it's been very successful.
So you're going on 19 years, 20 years?
Yes, 20 years.
Wow.
Got 3 or 4 employees that started with me that are still here as well. We're all a little older, but it's all good. We started actually with bent grass greens. We were at the time, Tiff Eagle and Champion
Right.
and all those ultra dwarfs hadn't really been accepted yet, and as a group, the superintendents I don't think had quite figured out how to grow it.
Right.
So at the time, bent was probably the best choice for our situation, being closed for 5 months a year, and so we started with bent grass greens, and that lasted until 2011 when we switched to Champion, which was a much better move for us.
Okay, neat. That's the history of the club. It always fascinates because I'm a history guy anyways. I always love to hear the story of the golf course as well. Private club, I think it's very well known in the area and the region. In fact, I was just talking to someone a couple nights ago, and I've been to a lot of really awesome golf courses, and I have no idea how they come up with the ratings as far as top 100. It's like I walk into a golf course and think, how is this not one of the top 10 in the world? And you see it's not even listed in the top 100. And it's like something's wrong, because I've been in some of those other ones. I don't know how you make that decision from one club to the next. What's the key to that? I'm assuming politics might be involved.
There's probably some politics. I think the architect who is involved, if it's Tillinghast or Donald Ross or something, I think that
Right.
gives it a little
Right.
more. And then, I think if you've got a big wow factor like an ocean or a mountain or something like that, that helps as well.
Right.
Because, the routing of a course, that's up to the architect, and that can be good. But if you don't have a big backdrop, sometimes it's not
Exactly.
not like Pebble or something like that. So.
Right, you don't stand there and get to go, ah.
Yes.
Been to some of the Hawaii golf courses that you look at that and you think, oh my gosh, there's a mountain right there.
Yeah.
And it is just spectacular. You're right. One of the things, because I don't know this about you and I want to find out, I try to ask everyone, how did you actually get started in the game of golf? When did you start and what prompted that?
Well, my father, we went on a trip to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I was born in Cincinnati and in that area, and my dad had read about all the golf courses there, so he decided to teach me how to play golf, and started with an old set of clubs that
How old were you?
I was about 11 or 12.
Okay.
Yeah. And then got hooked like a lot of people do. And then we started playing when we got back, my father and I. And that lasted till about high school. And then I was in college. I started out as a forestry major in college at Colorado State. And it was a field with a lot of people in it and not a lot of jobs. And then one day, one of the guys in my dorm, he knew I liked to play golf. And he came home, and he was a landscape architect or a landscape design major. and he came back to the dorm. And he goes, "Man, I heard about a great career for you. It's called a golf course superintendent. They actually pay people to manage golf courses." So I looked into it, and it sounded good to me. And of course, we all got into the business thinking we were going to play golf every day.
Right.
And you know how that turned out. And,
Yeah, wipe the dust off your golf clubs.
Yeah. I raised 4 kids too along the path here. So there was a long dry spell for a while where I didn't get to play too much.
It's kind of interesting because you talk about starting at age 11 or 12. I think that was pretty common from my era. Now if you start when you're 12 years old, you're very late starting to the game for kids who are actually playing golf.
Yeah.
It's kind of fascinating, the evolution of that.
Yeah. My son, he started in it, and I started him at a younger age, and then I saw some of his friends, and some were very good early, and then kind of faded, and then others took longer, and became better players at a later age. So,
and I ask you this question because a few weeks ago someone asked me this question, and I didn't have an answer for them because I was talking about a friend of mine up in Ohio who is a superintendent, and I called him a greenskeeper.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I used both words in our conversation, and he stopped me and he said, "Which is it?" I said, "I don't know." I said, I don't know, because I remember years ago, it was always the greenskeeper.
Mm-hmm.
Now I think it's transitioned to superintendent. Is that just a reflection of the professionalism now that's involved, where it used to be the guy that just got hired that was willing to work all those hours and get paid very little?
Right. I tell people, as long as the check clears on Thursday, you can call me whatever. But no, we like to be called. We are the Treasure Coast Golf Course Superintendents Association, or the Golf Course Superintendents Association of America. So some people go by golf course manager, or facilities director, or director of golf. There's a lot, but generally, I think we're all golf course superintendents.
So I'll make sure not to call you greenskeeper.
I think, Carl from Caddyshack, I would say he might be a greenskeeper.
That's a pretty good picture right there. In fact, it fits with guys I'm thinking of back when I started playing golf. I don't think they really had a lot of unique skills other than being there to cut the grass.
Well, most of my colleagues have all gone to college, either 2 or 4 year degrees, and then nothing beats being in the field and learning. Learn, and we all, generally everybody works their way up.
Right.
And you start out on a piece of equipment like we've got here.
Right.
And then you slowly work up to spraying and fixing irrigation leaks, and then, obviously managing the crew, and then, moving up, making all the big decisions.
I guess one of the things that I would like to ask you, being in the golf business myself, and I know my issues, what are the biggest challenges for you in maintaining the property and really managing this monster? It is a monster.
Yeah, and it changes from season to season. Right now we're in our dry season, so water, it's not raining hardly at all, so water is a key. So your irrigation system has to be working right now. We all find where all the broken heads are this time of the year, for sure. And then I think for the industry as a whole, I think on both sides of the table, the golf professional and superintendent is finding qualified people like so many fields right now, because it seems like everybody that is employable is employed. So finding good quality people is another one. And the weather, everybody thinks, no matter how big or small your budget is, that I got something to do with the weather, and that can really, that throws a lot of curveballs. Give you an example, I think 2 Fridays ago we got a storm that blew in. It didn't really hit. I think it probably came down Melbourne Beach, and it was a Friday afternoon.
I think we got a little bit of the edge, but not much of it.
It came in. It really got strong at Windsor, came across the river, and it hit us with almost 2 inches of rain in about 40 minutes. just west of here, where some of my staff live in Vero Lake Estates, they got a sprinkle, and at my house I got less than a half an inch, and then south of that got nothing, and my mom out west of town got nothing. So, but in that time, it completely washed out every bunker that we had on the golf course, and it was a Friday afternoon. So here we were, all set for the weekend. We were all, everything was striped out and mowed and raked and perfect, and then we got that. So the crew comes in on Saturday morning, and we had to put about 80% of the crew out fixing bunkers, and we did get all the bunkers fixed by the time the shotgun went off at 9 o'clock. But that's a perfect example of Mother Nature throwing you a curveball.
Exactly.
So.
Well, plus then you have those people that are coming over that didn't get hit by that storm where they're at, and they show up and say, "What's the big deal?"
Well, luckily, the 3 key places we draw from all got hit hard by rain that day. So
you lucked out.
I have another friend that works at a golf course, and he's got a guy who lives on the golf course, and then he'll close the course because of 3 inches of rain or something, and the guy will call him up and say, or I'll tell him if he sees him in the golf shop or something, we didn't get that much rain.
Just kind of support you need, right?
Yeah, really.
It only takes one, and it spreads. You've got to tell us about this building we're in. We're out here shooting in the maintenance, and this is almost, to me, this is breathtaking.
Wow.
I visit a lot of golf courses, and this is nice.
Yes. Well, thank you.
You're the envy of, I'm sure, a lot of superintendents.
So this was actually designed by a guy who specialized in golf maintenance facilities.
It looks like it.
And it was very well thought out. We've got a great area for the mechanics to work, and great storage. And, we've got about $800,000 worth of equipment in the 2 buildings.
Nice.
That it takes to maintain a golf course like this. And then, to keep it clean and keep it up. The building's almost 20 years old, and we're pretty proud of the way it looks.
It's spotless.
We get a lot of insurance guys that come through, for our policy every year, and they come in and they look, and they're really impressed. And the state and local regulators that come through every year to look, and same thing. And when you got a clean and a good looking shop, it gives that professionalism. And I think, especially in the case of insurance people and, regulators, government people that come in and they see a well taken care of place run by people who, care and look what they're doing, and it gives you a good rapport with them as well.
Well, I'm sure it sets a tone for your staff.
That's key too.
You've established your expectations for anyone that comes on property as soon as they walk in.
Tidiness starts here, and it continues on onto the golf course.
Right.
And
that's pretty neat. But yeah, this is hopefully at some point Caleb can get a couple of shots of this, because this is, once you get in here, you need to see this. I've been in a lot of, in fact, I think I just had my mechanic grumbling because he was laying on the ground trying to get up under a piece of equipment trying to fix it. And I'm sure from your past what it's like sometimes.
Yeah,
but this is special. It really is, and you should be proud of it.
Thank you.
Because it doesn't happen by accident, and it doesn't stay this way by accident.
Right.
So pretty neat. Golf course issues as far as Redstick. What are your goals? What do you set goals for your staff and what you're trying to accomplish? Is there a level you're trying to maintain? Again, I know weather, and especially in Florida, you get hit with stuff. It's can be a roller coaster. But as far as you establishing what you want for your membership.
Well, we've got members from all around the country, all around the world, and they all belong to some of the the best clubs in the country or the world. So we're compared on a pretty high level. So we got green speeds that we try to achieve every day, and then we've got quality of fairway or of turf that we want in each, either be tees or fairways or roughs or whatever, that we try to aspire to. And then you've got bunkers that some people say they're a hazard, but no matter what, they have very high expectations on that too, and everybody kind of wants the ball to sit up. So we spend a lot of time and money on bunkers, believe it or not.
Really?
So
That's kind of fascinating, because I think a lot of places treat them as almost an afterthought.
right. You know, a lot of them are right next to a green, so you want to have a good lie if you're
Good point.
if you want to be able to get that. You know, you just paid $100 or more for a nice Volkey wedge or something, and you want to be able to get that ball up and get it on the green and get it close. So, yeah.
It's been a while since you bought a Volkey wedge.
Oh, okay.
You get them on eBay for $100 now. You can tell who gets their equipment free, can't
Yeah,
you?
well, discounted. I guess I gave away the discount price.
As far as one of the big topics everywhere you go, and sometimes it makes me crazy because there's people talking about it that shouldn't be talking about it, like the 15 handicappers talking about green speed. Mm-hmm. Do you have a speed that you're looking for? Does it transition, or are you trying to say, okay, this is our speed and we want to keep it there?
We try to maintain that speed on pretty much from October through May, and you know, with the great equipment that we have now and the fertility programs that we got, we can do that.
Make everyone's eyes water and tell them what speed you try to keep it at.
Well, we're somewhere between 11 and a half and 13 and a half.
Oh my gosh.
On a daily basis. And, that's dictated by weather, especially here in Florida. When you get these cold fronts come through, and you get really cold, you can get those greens really quick because the plant really constricts and tightens up, and it's not growing. So it's easier when it's cold to get, you know, pretty fast green speed.
Right. Yeah, I can I can still remember my first introduction to when greens started to speed up. Is that, you know, I played golf all over northern Ohio and was semi-successful, and then we had an event at Muirfield Village, and I was all jacked up, hit my driver 9-iron on the green about 10 feet away, and proceeded to hit the first putt 20 feet past the hole. And I was like, what just happened? And it's unique when you get on because it is challenging to be able to maintain that speed at a golf course, like you said, with all the weather and the other issues you deal with.
It's probably one of the more rewarding aspects of my job that I look for personally. I really enjoy being able to manipulate that turf to do that, and it takes a lot of teamwork. It takes the guy mowing the green's got to be professional, and the guy rolling it, the guy spraying it, and, you know, everything. It's
not that easy to do, is it?
No, there's, you know, I think some people think you just set the mower and go out and mow. And
set it a little lower and fix it.
Yeah, far from it, you know. And you know, it's interesting. Back when I got into the business, in the mid '80s, a green speed, if you were above 10. You know, you were almost like a god in the golf maintenance world. And back then, the USGA had, I remember, a pamphlet on the stimp meter and all that. And 8 to 10 was considered, you know, fast, and 10 was considered anything over 10 was considered very fast. And, and nowadays, 10 is probably pretty common. I know Michigan State, about 7 or 8 years ago, they did a study at Crystal Downs, and I think it's in Frankfort, Michigan.
Yeah.
They worked with the superintendent, and they got the golf shop staff all involved, and a professor from Michigan State, and they wanted to find the optimum green speed, and so they enlisted the kids the guys all the assistant pros and the guys in the bag area and all that to make sure that they contacted every player or every member that played golf on every day for the whole summer. And they had a card, and it was just like where the greens, I think it was like too fast, okay, or too slow. And that was the only question they had to ask. And then they kept stimp meter readings like twice a day, every day for that whole summer too. And then they added up they went through all that data, and they found that 10.5 was for that place at that time was the optimum
Really?
speed that
That's
the
interesting.
majority of the membership, and that was a pretty high majority. It was like close to 90%.
Oh, wow.
Felt that that was the best speed. And of course, here again, 10.5 can be considered slow by some
Right.
golfers now.
Right. Yeah, I love to watch old videos, and I mean, you even watch, the old highlights in the '60s of Augusta,
Yeah.
and that's not Augusta today.
No.
Completely
no.
different. What was it? I mean, you're probably the guy to ask this. What was the transition as far as the ability to do that physically with the green, as well as the attitude?
I think, superintendents are, we're, as a group, we're inquisitive and we're always trying to.
Yeah, that's why we keep you in separate buildings.
Exactly. But we're always trying to find a better way, I think. I think it's our nature, and we all joke that we kind of did it to ourselves. We can be our own worst enemy, because
Exactly.
a lot of my friends really do strive for perfection, every day of the year or every day of the season. And you look at that one film of Palmer, I think it was at the Augusta putting. I think it was like in '64 or something. And it looked like we all joke in the industry that he was putting on a shag rug that day. And but the mowers now, I mean, we can get these mowers below 1/10 of an inch, which is 5 or 6 sheets of paper. And we're mowing grass, and we're keeping a green. We're actually keeping 3 acres of grass alive and thriving mowed at heights that low, and it takes great fertility. It takes great drainage, a good irrigation system, and it takes good assistant or
someone that's maintaining that equipment properly as well.
Good equipment technicians. Yeah, so it's like I said, it's a team effort. But that's how all that's changed. And then we're top dressing all the time, and a friend of mine and I were reminiscing yesterday. He got smart enough to retire from this business and went on to teach bridge. But but we were talking about things that changed, the golf industry, or changed, our end of it. And the mowers, you got growth regulators helped a lot, and then some of this great equipment we've got for aerifying and top dressing really helps, and that's how we can get down to these speeds now that they didn't probably have in '64.
Right. I mean, in fact, I was just talking about that. And it just one day it dawned on me, because everyone's talking about the golf ball and the equipment and the R&D that goes into that, but all of the research and development that has gone into this side of the industry, a lot of it due to the ag schools and universities that have done so much that bleeds over into the golf industry. You find that to be true?
Yeah, that's true. And the chemical companies, the fertilizer companies do a lot of research, and then we fund a lot of it ourselves through the various superintendent associations or the Florida Turfgrass Association. And we raise money, like our association, the Treasure Coast. We've got a tournament at MacArthur in about a week and a half, where we'll raise a pretty good substantial amount of money, and then that allows us to donate to IFAS and to the university, and then because we're the donors, we get to dictate what we want researched, which grasses, what condition, what fertilizers or chemicals that we want to see evaluated. So that has helped a tremendous amount, and it's helped bring stuff like Champion and Tiff Eagle and stuff like that to the marketplace. And
which for everyone out there, just give a brief explanation of those names and what it's representing.
Well, they're all the ultra dwarf putting surfaces that are prominent at most clubs now. There's still some old Tiff dwarf, going way back prior 1950 or 60. You just put it on Bermuda grass, and it was mowed as low as they could mow it to keep it alive. And then, you talk about how things have changed. Well, then Tiff Dwarf came along. It was developed in Georgia, in Tifton, and it was developed. And then they found they could mow it lower, and it got tight. And and it was, a pretty good putting surface, but it still wasn't bent grass.
Right.
And then here again, superintendents in our industry kept pushing it and pushing the limit.
So you guys are to blame for all
Yeah,
this.
we are. And then, so you had Tiff Eagle, and with the help of the USGA and the universities and everybody, but everybody came together, and we got now, because of that, we got Tiff Eagle, and then you got a guy named Morris Brown down in Houston that developed Champion. He was a golf course superintendent, I believe, that found it on a green. A lot of these are just mutations or different grasses that he found on one of his greens, and he took it and then he kept playing with it and propagating it and turned it into a great greens grass.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, typically when a golfer comes in and starts talking about, Tiff Eagle, Champions, I just say, you're overthinking it.
Yeah.
We're still putting.
Yeah, but they're all great, and
they are. It's
to be honest
amazing.
with you, I can't really tell the difference just by eyeballing it if I'm playing. Sometimes.
Well, I'm glad you
can,
said that, because I try to duck that when it's like I don't want to admit I don't know.
Sometimes I can tell, depending on how it's managed. But a lot of times, if they're all managed really good, it's hard for me to tell. The difference.
Yeah, so similar. Absolutely. That's interesting. But it is. I think we can blame it on our own egos a lot of times. What's happened with not only on this side, but on the golf ball side, the golf equipment, the R&D that's gone into this. And I know there's a lot of talk. I guess just one last question. Where do you see us going golf industry-wise with what's happening with golf courses as far as obviously not as many golf courses being built now. Right. I think hopefully we learned a lesson there, and we need to catch up with some golfers before we keep doing that. But as far as, do you see anything unique on the horizon about its maintenance, or is it just it's good where we're at? We just need to just keep getting a little better at it.
Yeah, well, I think it's going to change. There's automated mowers out that, if you think about it, it's not that hard. You got specific areas, you got greens and fairways that can be GPS. So a lot of these mowers now can work off of GPS. It's been out for about 7 or 8 years now. And I think that you're going to see more of that, which will help. One of the things I said, that we're all having trouble with is labor.
Right, staffing.
So if you can have a situation, if you got automated greens mowers, one guy could cut a cup and maybe rake a bunker and kind of monitor a couple of these mowers as they're mowing the
Stop
green.
And think about that. Isn't that bizarre? I started with a weed eater in my hand and then this little push mower on a 9-hole golf course. It just that's incredible.
But I remember, when I was a freshman in college and you had punch cards to make your computer program, and now you've got something in your pocket or on your belt that's probably a lot more powerful than that computer was at college. And
certainly,
and you can be driving in your car and pull up a map anywhere, and so it's just technology. So it's in everything.
But you can't replace that smell of fresh cut grass in the morning.
Or the sunrise.
Exactly.
Or the weather coming in or all that.
Yeah, when I was 17, I would have never dreamed I loved being up and seeing the sunrise.
Yeah.
It's incredible once you get hooked on it.
Yeah.
It becomes a habit. It really does. Well, it better, or you won't be in the industry very long.
I'll tell you, the other end of that, too, is the sun setting. It's sometimes the prettiest, I think, the golf course is that late afternoon sun and just being out, and it's usually really peaceful. And
that's where I pretend I'm Walt Disney. I get in the cart and drive around like I'm driving around my property and looking at everything. It's just, it's fascinating.
I do the same thing. It gives you a good feeling. It really does.
It's pretty neat. But no, I just really, I want to thank you for the invitation to getting here today. Really enjoyed it. I mean, a lot of good information, and just seeing this property is fascinating. And I know you've shared a lot of stuff with us, so thanks. And thank you for joining us. And go find us at Coach One for Me, our podcast. We'll have it ready for you. And until next time, thanks for joining us.